goblins, matrons, ringleaders, lackeys, that sort of thing.
What do you like about the Krenko? I'm just curious before we talk about that.
Krenko, I just like it. It's just like a 4-mana threat. When you have War Chief in play, you can just put a bunch of dorks into play and make Pile Driver bigger, and those guys attack with haste.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure that it's better than Wart, Bogart, Auntie, because I like to be able to recur Incinerators and Warren Weirding, especially against Reanimator, but to each their own.
All right, well, Michael Wong is indeed playing Reanimator on the left here. He's starting with a Ponder.
And is there anything special about his Reanimator deck as far as targets are concerned?
No, he's got the standard 4 Gristlebrand. He's running Angel Despair, not Tidespout Tyrant.
Okay.
And he has Sphinx of the Steel Wind and Elish Norn as his additional fatties and choices. He had Reanimate Daze and another Ponder in that Ponder that he kept, so that's pretty good.
Sphinx of the Steel Wind is going to be the most problematic for the Goblin deck.
Yep.
I mean, Gristlebrand is obviously always good, but Sphinx of the Steel Wind, there is nothing that Phimus can do to answer that, and because it has Lifelink and Vigilance, it's almost impossible to overcome. The 2 Sting Scourgers that Phimus does have aren't going to save him.
Yep, that is entirely accurate. We're fetching again. We have a Force of Will and a Daze in our hand, I see.
With no turn 1 play from Phimus, I mean, I don't want to pronounce a matchup to be over immediately, but if you're not starting with a Vial or a Lackey, especially when you're going against Reanimator, I don't really know what you're doing, because a hand with like Goblin Pile Driver or War Marshal or any of that nonsense is far too slow to be able to beat this sort of deck. So hopefully the rest of his hand is relatively good.
It looked like Wong kept a Ponder-centric hand. He did not have an enabler to get a creature in the graveyard. He kept his hand fully on the strength of its ability to find such a way, but he hasn't found that yet. He's pondering again. Picked up a Brainstorm, which is just another way to dig.
So we haven't found any Entombs or Careful Studies or any of that stuff yet?
No, he has an Animate Dead and a Reanimate, I believe, so far.
Sure, I rarely see this happen for the Reanimator deck. He's going to keeps
it. I assume on the strength of the Brainstorm, he's going to get to see 2 more cards after he draws next turn.
His Phimus might get a little fortunate here because he is, you know, cantripping around and not doing anything, that a slower draw from Phimus, as Cavern of Souls names Goblins and puts Goblin Pile Driver into play.
Sure.
A slower draw from Michael Wong might be able to let Phimus steal this game. So we see a Brainstorm now.
Yep. He's going through. Interestingly, he tapped his C, I assume because he's kind of playing around Wasteland here, but I might value... We didn't have another source of black. We drew one, so...
And Phimus does have 4 copies of Wasteland in his deck to go along with 4 Cavern of Souls and 14 Mountains. So
Looks
just 22 land in his deck.
We have 2 Animate Dead, and we just put a Reanimate back with our Brainstorm. And Polluted Delta will be able to crack us into a new top few cards. Still just digging.
Yeah, still just digging around doing nothing. Phimus is, I mean, hopefully this is going to be a Goblin War Chief for him or a Goblin Chieftain. He needs to get some pressure on. Okay, There we go. And this is going to be an attack for 5 with the Pile Driver trigger.
And suddenly, Michael is on the clock.
Yeah, I mean, under the gun relatively quickly. And things can get to a situation as he goes down to 14 here where Sphinx of the Steel Wind is blue. And Goblin Pile Driver happens to have protection from blue.
Also true.
So, I know, I'm a truth-sayer. So, even though Sphinx is going to gain 6 from blocking maybe one of the Goblins, the Goblin Pile Driver may be able to overpower that because of the trigger.
That's the sort of trick you might be able to get through with once, maybe twice. If you're doing it well, it's really hard to beat that gain 6, but if you have enough Goblins.
Enough Goblins or enough Pile Drivers, and it can happen.
That's true. Multiple Pile Drivers are especially strong. I hadn't even considered that one.
So we see a draw step. I think he drew an Underground.
Yep, I think so too. I think he put one back with his Brainstorm also, so that's kind of awkward for him.
Just passing back.
So many Animate Deads.
Yeah, so many ways to put a big monster into play. No way to put a big monster in the bin.
We could have, I guess, like theoretically forced one of these guys, and that would give us kind of something to do with these spare reanimation spells. Like I don't think forcing the War Chief and then reanimating is like the worst play in the world.
Well, I promise that would be I promise that would be difficult because of Cavern of Souls.
Oh, you're right. He did.
Yeah, hell of a
Can I get a confirmation on that Goblin? I want to make sure he did.
Anyone? We see a Daze.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'll blame the glare, even though that's me lying.
Sure.
And I'm just stupid.
He's gonna pay.
He's gonna pay for this. He didn't cast it with the Cavern of Souls.
Well, the reason he didn't do that is because, I mean, this one's gonna search for Goblin Pile Driver, which is more important for him to resolve. Sure. I don't know the rest of his hand, of course.
I mean, but if the Matron doesn't resolve, you can't get the Pile Driver anyway.
That's true. That's very true. And these Pile Drivers are going to go up to 2, 4, 6. They're going to be 7 power guys, and this one's 100% resolving. So
this is a sick swing here.
Provided this resolves and the attack is fine, then we're going to move on to game 2.
Yep.
With what was a very bad draw from Reanimator and a super mediocre draw from Goblins. Yet here we are, moving on to game 2.
Yeah. It's an easy game, The Gathering.
Yeah, I guess so. Taking a look at Michael's sideboard, what does he have other than drawing better than that game that he can board in?
Well, I don't think he's going to bring in the show and tells, because Goblins traditionally relies more on the Sting Scourgers than actual graveyard hate. Although I'm sure he probably has some graveyard hate over there. Iona, I guess, is kind of reasonable, but you have Vials, so you can get through that. Grave Titan, I like that idea.
That's interesting. I haven't seen that before.
I haven't seen Grave Titan Reanimator sideboards, but it seems nice in this matchup. Creates a bunch of dudes. You can block with them. They're all pretty reasonably sized. And he's got Massacre, which he can't free cast against this deck, but it's still also not a bad card. It's pretty much just Wrath, right?
Yeah, it's definitely Wrath against Goblins if he's able to get the 4 mana, which that game he was actually able to do because he didn't do anything. Looking on Phimus' side, speaking of the Graveyard 8, he does have 2 Relic of Progenitus. He also has 3 Fairy Macabres, so it looks like he's relatively well set up against the Reanimator deck. Problem is with the Fairy Macabres is they're not Goblins, so he can't Matron for them or Ringleader into them or something like that. He can cycle Incinerator into them, which is relatively good. He also has a 3rd Sting Scorcher in the board, but that's not going to solve the Sphinx of Steelwind problem, of course. Goblin King to pump some guys along with Boar Tusk Liege, and we can also see 2 red Elemental Blast, which are okay, but nothing spectacular. But these 2 Pyrokinesises in the main deck, in Phimus' main deck, those are going to the sideboard.
And he has Chalice of the Voids in there too.
He does have 3 Chalices. I don't like those on the draw at all.
Okay. That makes sense.
On the play, I guess it's okay, but when I think of Chalice of the Void, I think of either playing it off of Ancient Tomb, playing it off of City of Traders, or playing it off of Land plus Chrome Mox.
Yep.
For it to really have an impact, and none of those things actually exist here.
I imagine he's running the Chalices as a way to get grindy in those rug matchups.
Yeah.
Because those just turn into a real fight, and he can just shut up his opponent's ability to cast a lot of his spells. So
yes.
I like that. I don't think I've ever seen that before, but it's a cool idea.
I haven't seen it in Goblins before, no.
Yeah.
And I don't hate it. But he does have a healthy amount of... He does have a healthy amount of graveyard hate, and it wouldn't surprise me to see Michael board in a couple show and tells just to hedge.
Sure.
So that he's not all in and trying to beat Fairy Macabre and trying to beat Relic of Progenitus.
I think that also seems kind of reasonable because he's got the City of Traders to go with the show and tells, and that way he can also afford to maybe cast this Massacre and even like cast a Grave Titan possibly. Like it's not out of reach once you have those City of Traders in your deck.
Yeah, it's definitely not crazy at all. And he can board out the Caracases for the City of Traders.
Yep, I think that's fine. His Angel of Despair is not especially great, is it?
I mean, the best it's going to do is kill a Goblin Pile Driver, potentially a Goblin War Chief. I don't like it. I would much rather have Iona or Grave Titan instead of that card.
Yeah, I think we'll see that one leave the deck. Thought Seizes, maybe? He's on the play, so they're a little stronger. I think they definitely come out on the draw, but what do you think about on the play?
On the play, they seem reasonable. I can see a reason to keep a couple copies. I mean, ideally, what will probably happen, or what Michael believes what's going to happen, is that the artifacts, the typical graveyard hate are 1-mana artifacts. Mm-hmm. So even if he thought this on turn 1, he's not going to have like a problem casting it if he draws one on turn 2 or turn 3 or turn 4.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know that he has Fairy Macabres. But I don't really love Thoughtseize, this particular matchup. Like you said, it's better on the play than it is on the draw. But I mean, it seems like he has better options with the show and tell package.
That's fair. I think I agree that I would rather try to show the opponent than Thoughtseize and Reanimate on them. So. But
then again, another thing to keep in mind is that he is on the play, so he can't take a Goblin Lackey, he can't take a Matron, he can't take a Sting Scourger, that sort of thing, and that's relatively important depending on which threat he draws, assuming he doesn't find an Entomb. So being proactive with Thoughtseize could actually save him. So if he leaves all 4 in or cuts it 2, either thing that he does wouldn't surprise me, but I would be surprised if he was to shave all 4.
Sure. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So as they shuffle up for game 2, I mean, I think this matchup heavily favors Reanimator. I mean, Phimus does have some hate cards. He has a couple Sting Scourgers. He has some Relics, some Fairy Macabres, that sort of thing.
I don't know. I'm kind of feeling Goblins here. Like, he's got a lot of hate, and I like to root for the person who's going to attack the opponent.
Okay, well, I mean, I love goblins. It's not a tough sell. I mean, I'd love to see. I would love to see a goblin deck win, but it's difficult, and you can't expect him to do nothing the next 2 games like he did the previous game.
This isn't a bunch of nimble mongooses and tarmogoyfs. Sorry, we got stuff.
Well, I don't like that deck. I'm glad this deck has stuff. What we need to see is if the stuff is good. The last game it was. This game, hopefully it'll be good again, but...
I've always been amused by how the performer that Sting Scourger is in this deck also. Because I remember playing with him, obviously, in Limited, where he's a sweet little dude.
Yeah.
And Legacy's just always been a staple of Goblins, and he's so useful, you know? Solves all these bizarre situations.
It's a very strange card for being like a 2-mana 2/2 with you have no plans of ever paying the echo cost, but it just serves like a rather important function. And it does its job very well, coming through Cavernous Souls and coming through Aether Vial and being able to be tutored for. So it's a nice one of to have, or in Phimus' case, multiple copies.
Yeah. He's got how many?
It's 2 main, 1 board.
2 main, 1 board. Wow, that's a lot. He came prepared.
So we see a turn 1 Underground Sea. Not sure if Michael has an Entomb or not, but
seems reasonably likely.
I feel like it's either Entomb or Brainstorm.
Oh, looks like it's one or the other.
Okay.
From the look of it, he had both.
He had both. Okay. So
And he has the City of Traders and a Show and Tell, and he's got the full Mon hand there. He's got everything.
Yeah, his hand does not seem bad.
He may have a Gristlebrand, I'm not sure.
Upkeep.
This doesn't seem to indicate that.
Upkeep, we see an Entomb.
Away. I know that I believe he put the city on top, so he's shuffling that away.
So Fairy Macabre is going to be bonkers right now.
I did spot that Grave Titan, I saw it.
It's in there?
I saw the Grave Titan.
The eyes on you. They can't get anything by you.
Shiny Iona.
That's a game ender if that gets into play, for the record.
No turn 1 Vial from Goblins, that means Iona.
Got a reader.
He just wants to make sure. It's shiny. It's hard to see. There's a lot of glare.
So if that comes into play, how dead am I? Okay, very. All right, perfect. You're gonna really need that Fairy Macabre right now, real bad.
We have a fetch line too, so we're running the whole no shortcuts on the shuffle here.
Okay.
Ship. Oh, we drew an Underground Sea. Maybe we're just gonna play that instead. Nope.
Nope. Shuff.
Imagine we're gonna grab a Black Source. That's my feeling. Now, if Phimus has his Fairy Macabre here.
I mean, if he has Fairy Macabre, it's very good.
I think that's accurate. Swamp.
I'm not going to win him the game outright, but it is going to be relatively good.
Yeah, it's just going to be a quick and easy. I mean, it's like a 1.3 for 1, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Your opponent played Brainstorm slightly less efficiently. The tomb didn't generate immediate value.
Zing!
What a feeling.
So he's reading this. He's probably wondering if he has to lose life.
Yeah. You know, every now and then we make fun of the people for reading their cards, but we also make fun of people when they don't read the cards and get destroyed.
I am more inclined to make fun of someone who does not read their cards.
He had the Fairy Macabre. He also removed, it looks like another card, I guess, probably the Brainstorm.
Probably the Brainstorm, yeah.
That's my guess.
Now, that being said, I mean, he's going to wasteland that.
I see Exhume and Show and Tell in Michael Wong's hand as well.
Yes, so if he ever draws a big dumb idiot, and he draws Force of Will to go along with that Show and Tell, he's going to be able to put it into play, so.
Yep.
Yikes.
Phimus really kept on the strength of that Fairy Macabre here, and while it did keep him alive...
Guess who drew a big dumb idiot?
Yep. Michael's going to show Phimus the weakness of relying on the graveyard hit here, because he has audible to a completely different plan.
That's correct. That's what makes Reanimator a tough deck to beat, is because if you are all set up to take care of their graveyard, they can easily just tap 3 mana, cast Show and Tell, and put the big dumb moron into play, which I want to say this is the best guy that he could have drawn this turn. It's close between this and Sphinx, but
yeah. I think Sphinx is slightly better just because Phimus could theoretically have like land on top, Sting Scourger in hand, maybe.
Sure.
Or I guess actually like he doesn't even need to land; he can just have Sting Scourger.
He can just have Sting Scourger in his hand.
So I guess Sphinx is the only one that's really better.
Ooh, okay.
Red.
Okay.
Well, this was a hate-filled hand.
This is a red blast. Pass.
Got defense.
What did he draw? I missed it. Blue
Another-
card. Careful study.
Yeah,
Oh,
careful
good,
study.
good draw.
It's reasonable. He's just gonna keep chugging along. Imagine we're pitching Land Gristlebrand. That's my read.
Let's see if your read's correct. I think you're guaranteed to be.
about
I
that
think you're
excess
guaranteed to be
anime
half right.
Yeah, we're pitching an Excess Anime Dad. Nope. We
No,
switched
okay.
it. All right,
Nailed
I
it.
got it.
Nailed it.
Bam.
Exhume. Do you have another Fairy Macabre, sir?
Well, he gets at least one from the graveyard.
That's true. That's true. Oh yay! It's back.
You know, this play actually wound up being very relevant in a match a few months ago. I was watching like it was Burn versus Reanimator.
Okay.
The Fairy Macabre came back and blocked long enough to survive.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
it was
kind
really
of insane.
adorable.
Goblin Lackey, you're a little late.
Late to the party, but you know, getting started. So now we're gonna try and race Yawgmoth's Bargain with Lifelink.
Which is, you know, pretty easy.
It's gonna be tough. I'm not gonna lie. We're gonna have some problems.
4, 5, 6, 7.
Is he activating in response to Lackey or during the end step?
I think he's activating during the end step.
Okay. Nope. He did it in response. We're dazing
Okay,
Lackey.
sure. Just gonna keep that off the table. Just keep things under control.
Yeah.
We're gonna be moving to a third game shortly here. As much
Look at
as
you counting chickens.
look, as much as I love to believe that this Goblin deck can be Gristlebrand, I'm not in the business of lying to people, so I'm not gonna do that.
I'm not gonna lie. The Reanimator player is clearly in a favorable position.
Sure, sure. You can create whatever anecdote you want. Here's the truth. Gristlebrand is about to kill the Goblin player. Give him 2 or 3 turns. He also has a Forcible in his hand, so we're going to go through the motions here of
Sure.
what he can do, basically making sure that he does not lose. But Phimus is basically, he is on 1 land. You don't know what the rest of his hand contains, but Gristlebrand is going to work Necro on wheels with Lifelink. He'll ideally look for another threat to be able to put into play, something like Iona or Grave Titan or something like that, just to seal
Yeah.
the game.
He's got Sphinx, probably Elish Norn, and maybe Angel of Despair left in his deck still. We know he has the Grave Titan. I just want to see the Grave Titan in play, actually. Like, Grave Titan Legacy is just sweet, right?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It's happened before. A couple of these Nick Fit decks run it sometimes,
Yeah.
but, you know, it's cool. Phimus did not immediately play a land, so his options up here are pretty limited. Well, we have our Stone
Scourger.
Scourger. I smell a Force of Will.
It's a force or a daze or an activation, so either way, he's going to be able to find a way to be able to deal with this. 2,
3, 4,
5, 6, 7. We see a force. We saw a blue card, so
Yeah. There's more where that came from.
just going to decide what blue
Another
card to remove
force.
to force of will. So there's a force
Ponder.
removing Ponder. And that's going to do it.
Yep.
Unsurprisingly, we're going to go to a third game with Phimus on the play with his Goblin deck, which is where he needs to be in this matchup. It's very, very important for him to be playing first in this matchup. Hopefully getting things started with a Goblin Lackey or an Aether Vial this time. Neither game has he had a very good start.
Well, we witnessed there was one of the tough things about sideboarding a lot of cards that are reactive hate cards. You're not advancing your game plan, so even when you disrupt your opponent, you don't really punish them.
Sure, you're not
for
putting
the
on
time you
any
bought.
sort of clock on them.
Yeah, so it's awkward. One of the problems a lot of these decks can run into is when they sideboard out threats for answers, but like the reason the deck is even good is it's filled with threats.
Sure.
You just need to hit that density in order to be a threatening deck. If your opponent isn't scared of dying, then it doesn't really matter that you countered their spell.
Yeah, that's
They
very,
have
very
more
true.
spells. Their library is filled with them.
Yeah, I mean, the Reanimator deck doesn't have a ton of problem going off, you know, putting a threat into play repeatedly.
Yep.
It's not incredibly difficult for them, but when backed by pressure, and they have to cast Reanimate to put the threat back into play and take 8 damage or 7 damage to do that, that's when things get difficult for them.
That is the dangerous of situations.
So it looks like Phimus is changing up his sideboarding a little bit. I actually like the fact that he brought in the Red Blast and the Pyroblast for for show and tell. The danger he's going to get himself into is if he dilutes his deck too much.
Yep.
With those kind of spells. It's going to make Ringleader worse. It's not really going to make Matron worse, but it can make his overall draws worse by diluting his deck so much. So it's something that he needs to be careful of.
I imagine he trimmed the Pyrokinesis, the Scrapper, probably the Sharpshooter?
Yeah, the Sharpshooter's
Krenko, maybe?
The Sharpshooter's definitely going to go. I would be surprised if he left Krenko in. He could also just shave like one Ringleader as well, because like the way that he's diluting his deck, Ringleader's not going to be a 3 or a 4 every time it reveals. Mogg War Marshal's not great either, so he definitely has some things that he can sideboard out.
Yeah.
But he needs to get he needs to get a draw that involves Goblin Lackey, or Aether Vial putting in a Goblin Lackey or a Goblin Pile Driver, and really just get Michael dead as fast as he possibly can.
If he has one of those draws with a Fairy Macabre, he's in a pretty good shape. And it's when he doesn't have one of those draws and has multiple hate spells, he's going to run into a lot of problems. Or when he has one of those draws and no hate spells.
Sure.
That's the kind of pressure that these combo decks put you under, of course. Like, that's why they're good.
So let's see what Phimus is capable of doing. I think he would agree that this is a very difficult matchup for him. He does have the tools to win, but it doesn't mean it's easy.
It's true. I think he definitely came expecting the matchup. Having access to 3 Sting Scourger seems to speak to someone who knows the area and the metagame and expected Reanimator.
Sure, I think, it's easy to expect walking into these tournaments that you are going to play against Reanimator once or twice during the tournament if you expect to win it.
Yep.
So you're going to play against something that has Gristlebrand in it at some point.
Chatting a little about that game.
Huh?
So he's talking about, what if I did this? Or maybe he's just asking him about the nicest restaurant outside.
It's Subway. That's the best Vegas has to offer. So.
I love to eat fresh, so...
I don't hate it, but...
Big fan of eating fresh. Didn't get to eat anywhere really sweet this weekend. I really wanted to actually go to like one of the big how-to-do restaurants. I wanted to pay $80 for a meal that was only worth like $40 or $45, but...
I got lucky. I got to hit In-N-Out in between rounds today.
We all aspire to different things.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't... I don't have In-N-Out in Seattle. It's just the best burger place there is, in my opinion. So I was really happy I was able to hit that today.
I'm a big fan of J-Bo. Jack in the Box.
Ugh.
I know. It's so bad.
It's disgusting.
The mini churros, man. They get me with the mini churros.
I once had Jack in the Box. So the first time I had Jack in the Box was at Pro Tour Honolulu. As both these guys are rolling into 6, so I'll tell a quick story. First time I had Jack in the Box was Pro Tour Honolulu, the second one. And I ate it because we don't have them in Indianapolis or Cleveland. And so I was super excited because I've seen all these Jack in the Box commercials and they have all this food, and it was just horribly mediocre to bad. It was one of the worst milkshakes I've ever had. So, I eat it and I'm just like, man, this was just not very good. I'm just never going to eat this again. Like, based off of just one bad experience, it's just how I am. Like, maybe I'll eat it again in 3 or 4 years. So, a couple months ago, I decided, because they're all over Seattle, I decided, you know what? I'm going to go for it again. Because I live in Seattle now. So I go up there, I get like some sort of like double cheeseburger, some French fries, or I think I like onion rings. I definitely got onion rings and an Oreo shake. And I know I got onion rings because once I looked in my bag when I got home, there were French fries, not onion rings. So I know that I ordered onion rings. The Oreo shake I had was barely blended. It was really bad. And the burger was just, so gross. And I just couldn't believe how bad it was for like how much hype and how many commercials and everything. And so I tell my buddy and his girlfriend, and she's just like, what, you got a burger? I'm like, yeah, am I not supposed to do that? She's like, no, they're terrible there. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, clearly you should have read the guide to J-Bo before you went ordering at the restaurant. That's a rookie mistake. You hate to see it.
Yeah, and as our show director just said, Jack in the Box will lead to a violent eruption, which is a magic card.
We're classy.
We are very classy. It is a magic card, so that's definitely what's going to happen.
I won't lie.
You may even madness it out.
My J-Bo
you know what
nights,
I mean.
Madness. Oh, man. My J-Bo nights have frequently involved some, occasional imbibing of liquids before the.
Why do you call it J-Bo? Don't give it a nickname.
That's its name.
A
it's
nickname
J-Bo.
Means that like you respect it somewhat. I like to think, and I have no respect for it. Neither should you.
Jack in the Box is way too many syllables. I'm not going to discuss something seriously like that.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
You know, it's always amused me that McDonald's and Mickey D's are the same number of syllables, but because the staccato in Mickey D's is faster.
I didn't think about that, actually.
Syllable. Yeah, they shorten it because of the staccato of the rhythm. That's a really, like, I know, nerdy English major thing for me to just said.
I kind of like it, though.
Yeah.
It makes you think a little bit.
Like, man, people talk weird. The decisions they make.
Okay, Phimus has decided to keep his opener.
Yep, alrighty. Oh,
Going to 5.
Michael Wong going to 5 cards with his Reanimator deck. Well, as we discussed yesterday, you only really need 6 cards. The 7th one is extra.
Yeah.
But 5 is legitimately a hurdle.
5 is something to be scared of, but, I mean, Reanimator is a deck that can overcome mulliganing very well. It's a 2-card combo deck. It's not incredibly difficult to put the combo together.
Nope.
It has plenty of ways to find those cards between Brainstorm, Ponder, Careful Study, and even though he is mulliganing to 5, he is on the draw, so he's going to get a 6th card as part of the deal. So,
one of the strengths one of the strengths for goblins, I should say, of the Reanimator player's mulligans is that his hate cards do improve. He doesn't need to be able to stop the combo as many times. His opponent just has less cards.
yes. I mean, we're getting a situation because he is mulliganing to 5 that 1 Fairy Macabre could be enough.
Yep.
1 Relic of Progenitors could be plenty.
It also makes spots with Careful Study a lot more awkward. Normally you'd like to discard 1 big guy at a time to play around Fairy Macabre, but when you're on lower cards, you can't always afford to do that.
That's true.
Looks like we have a match result for you guys out on Twitter. I know someone was cheering for this particular gentleman. Galen
Go for it, because I had to do it earlier.
Farsa. That's what
Okay.
I'm calling it. Phallic Farsa?
Sure.
Has won his match.
Pat pronounces the hard names, not me.
2-1 against Steven Sabal. So
He'll be playing in the top 8.
he was table 4, so he was one of our 18 pointers, and that means he should be playing in the top 8, barring meteors or earthquakes or
other such nonsense, whatever sort of natural disaster takes place in Vegas.
or I guess he could just go outside and take a loan from the wrong guy, you know.
Anything can happen
Anything can
in the
happen
greatest city in the
Vegas.
world. Is this? I think this is. I don't know if he mulliganed again or not. I mean,
I hope not. That'd be great.
he's going to 4. He is going to 4.
Well, as we said, we only really need 2 plus a land, so technically 3.
Yeah,
So we might even, get another mulligan in there just for good measure.
should really just challenge himself.
Yeah.
See exactly what his deck is capable of.
It is one of my magical aspirations to win on a mulligan of 3. I have not done it. I've been playing a long time, and I've never won a mulligan of 3.
I know I've won a mulligan to 4. I'm not 100% positive I've won on a mulligan to 3.
I think I've mulliganed 2-3 less than 10 times in my entire career also. So, I haven't got a lot of chances.
No turn 1 play again.
He was on 6. Maybe you got to read that Michael was going to mulligan, and it's like, this hand might be fine.
That's it. That's what happened. Quick ponder shuffle.
Very quick. I saw a land, I think, and that was all I really saw, so. Another ponder from the director. His eagle eyes spotted another ponder. And he has a way smaller monitor than us, so that's really just a good
Yeah,
hand.
that was the fastest ponder I've seen in a long time. When you're watching players like AJ Soccer ponder so deliberately every time they cast Brainstorm and ponder.
So my guess is that Michael kept kind of a land-heavy hand based on the speed with which he sent that one back.
I mean, ideally that's
Can't
what you
really
want.
see.
That's what you want when
Yeah,
you
you
mulligan.
want to be able to just find some spells, not be underdeveloped when you have them.
Chalice of the Void for 1.
It looks like.
So he's diluted his deck even more, but
It's probably going to be pretty sweet.
probably going to be fairly good given that he has mulligan and the cards that he cast to get back in this game, Ponder, Brainstorm, and Careful Study, are no longer with us.
Let's just run down the list real quick of all the spells this shuts off. Thoughtseize, if it's still in the deck, Entomb, Reanimate, Brainstorm, Careful Study, Ponder, and none of his postboard spells. He's got that going for him.
Okay.
That's a lot of spells.
I think we're on the show and tell plan.
Yeah,
if
I'd
we
say
can
that's
get
it.
onto it.
We're going to need 2 more mana, and I believe a show and tell, because I don't think we have one of those either. And those cards are going to be much harder to find without Brainstorm, Ponder, and Careful Study.
A cool interaction that Phimus has available to him as well is because he has Cavern of Souls. That's a beating of a wasteland. As he has Cavern of Souls, he can actually cast Goblin Lackey through Cavern of Souls with Chalice in play because
That is cute.
because Cavern makes it uncounterable. So
It's adorable.
I know my Goblin deck in and out, through and through.
You just threw in an in and out reference there too. That was nice.
Did.
Yeah.
Man, I am awesome.
Goblin Matron, uncounterable.
Gonna search for the War Chief, which will be uncounterable following it up, and as long as he's able to exert enough pressure now, which looks as though Phimus is going to be able to, and Michael does not run perfect, which would be, drawing 3 straight lands, show and tell, putting in some sort of giant jerk.
Yep.
Goblins should be moving on to the top 8 here, but we have seen stranger things happen. I've been playing Magic for a very long time.
Yeah, I don't see a show and tell in his hand. I don't think. It's kind of hard. The cards are very horizontal, so he needs probably then at a minimum 4 runners. Well, he has a wasteland, so he also has to hit basics.
Yeah, he has hit basic. Like his hand could conceivably be like a City of Traders right now that he can't play, and he needs to hit basic and then that as he discards Elishnorn.
Clean up step. Discard the old Elishnorn. This gives him a leg to stand on too, where now he can play an Underground Sea and reanimate.
Can he cast
Or
reanimate?
no, sorry. Man, wow, I'm tired. Sorry about that.
I'm wide awake.
I know you're wide awake. Well, you got to just have a break. I've been working all day.
I'm wide awake. Katy Perry. Ring lead. Deuce. Trace.
Wacky.
Quattro.
Alright, that's fine.
You're not going to get that Fairy Macabre, my friend. And do not cast that Lackey with that mountain. Don't do it.
Well, that's interesting. I actually am now interested that he discarded the Elishnorn. So if we're on that show and tell plan, wouldn't we?
Oh no, that's counter. Oh, never mind, War Marshal. Right. I thought I was pretty sure he was going to cast the Lackey.
That's okay.
I'm
mine
glad
was
he
way
didn't.
worse. So.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. The attacks for 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Facing down what's fairly close to lethal. If he doesn't die this turn and he draws a land, he can animate dead that Elishnorn.
Yep.
So it's not going to be easy as he doesn't pay Echo because the token that's going to come into play.
He sideboarded in Vendilion Click. That is
really
interesting. Yeah, I saw it. It's the promo one right there on the right. Brought in Vendilion Click, which on the play I can kind of see that being reasonable, but on the draw I really dislike it. I think. Like it's a reasonably efficient way to check for a Fairy Macabre, I guess.
Sting Scourger.
Yep. He's checking to make sure that
target
he
creature
won't have to
opponent
bounce
controls.
one of his own guys, which he will not.
Lackey.
This is just the full amount.
I'm pretty sure that Michael's at 10, so I think this attack is going to be lethal.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think, right?
2, 4, 6, 7, 8. No, 2 tokens.
Oh, 2 tokens. I missed the second one. You're right.
He's got the land. Well, he's going to take. He would have to take a point of damage off of
The
Delta as well.
Yeah, anyway, so.
But he did have the swamp to cast Animate Dead on Elishnorn. So,
yep.
Tough break for Michael on what is, I think, we would both consider to be a fairly good matchup for him.
I mean, I knew the Goblins would. Hello, everyone. Once again, we're here live at the Las Vegas Legacy Open for StarCityGames.com. I'm Glenn Jones at the sideboard. This is Phimus Pan.
Hi.
Phimus just won a win-in for top 8 in the Legacy with Goblins. So, how long have you been playing Goblins?
Since today.
Since today. All right. First time with the decker.
I played Goblins back when it was Type 2 legal.
Oh, okay.
And maybe
so,
like part of that extended season afterwards.
We're familiar with a few of the little green men, but not all of them.
Not all of them.
All right. So, how'd you like it playing it in the wider format?
It was interesting. It seemed to be good against most of the fair decks.
Sure.
But poor against the decks that do degenerate things.
That's a reasonable assessment. I noticed your deck actually has a lot of interesting sideboard cards for these degenerate decks. Chalice of the Void was the big one that neither Cedric nor I had really seen Goblins players running, but it seems pretty sweet in the field right now.
Yeah, I just wanted something. I grabbed it. It was my last 3 sideboard cards.
Sure.
Right before the tournament, I just wanted, to have a chance against the really degenerate decks, and so it's good on the play. I don't think it's ever good on the draw, though.
That was pretty much our assessment, too. You can really only bring it on the play, but it's backbreaking in a lot of those situations. Like, obviously, your opponent mulliganed 4 in that match, so he didn't get to play Magic, but Chalice literally said he could no longer play Magic.
Right. He would have to, move. He'd have to move to discard and then, animate dead. That's what we talked about afterwards.
Yep. That seemed to be exactly his plan, but he had just enough Goblins to get him on that last turn.
Yeah.
So, what else? How'd your tournament go, What was your one loss to?
I actually lost Reanimator.
Okay, well.
Yeah. I don't think I remember I played that match. I won the second game, I think, with some relics.
Sure.
And then the third game, I didn't keep a very good hand and just went over. Okay.
We were talking about it seems like you have a lot of hate you can bring in versus Reanimator. The Chalices obviously came in only on the play. But we were just a little worried that your deck would get diluted, bringing all that stuff in. Was that a concern for you in the matches?
It was. I talked to people about it, and they wanted me to to only bring in a certain number of hate cards. I think I can just get them if I draw a hate card. I can beat them down.
Sure.
If I have to play something early though.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's tough. I'm not very experienced at Legacy, so I don't know is really the thing.
It's reasonable. Nobody knows everything. I mean.
Right.
How did the rest of the tournament go? Any other tough matchups? Interesting matchups?
I beat a Dredge deck when I mulled to 5.
Wow.
Yeah, in game 3. So that was pretty hard. He kept. I think he only had 2 dredgers. He Dark Blasted my first guy, and then dredged the Dark Blast into a Grave Troll.
Yep.
And then so on my turn I had to play a Lackey to get him to Dark Blast that, and then I macabre the 2 dredgers and needed to find another one.
That's a savvy play though. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to get a little lucky there.
Yeah, he has to feel threatened enough to not go for his just let it go and then Grave Troll.
Yeah, if he had just passed on Dark Blasting, I think I still have to just get the
Grave Troll
anyways.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's gonna get out of hand.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that play paid off, and I see that a lot of that happening with Dredge, especially. Players can brick their dredgers. They also keep hands that are really light, especially post board. In game 1, you can afford to keep hands that are light on dredgers, but in games 2 and 3, it's so much tougher because you have to beat through the graveyard hate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you're going into top 8. What matchup are you fearing if you know any of the top tables? I don't know if you do.
I think there is a Belcher deck that I can't possibly beat.
I think you might be right.
Yeah, I don't really know who else is in top 8. So I'd rather play against fair decks like Merfolk or Maverick or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, I beat one of each of those decks earlier today.
Yeah, there are a fair number of Mavericks. I know there is at least one Esper Stoneblade locked in. How do you like that matchup?
I think it's probably okay. I beat a deck with Stoneblade in it, a Stoneblade deck of some sort in round 1.
Okay.
It was the games are close, but yeah, I think I'm okay in there.
Sure, I think I agree. The Ring Leader really puts you over the top. You can afford to just jam your guys over and over, and you've got a lot of damage. You can even get through a Batterskull. It's not unrealistic.
Yeah, the easiest way to lose it, I think, is if I'm on the draw and they play turn 2 Stoneforge, and Incinerator you can just never catch it then.
Yep, that's true.
And so I would have to worry about that.
All right, well, you've got a top 8 to prepare for. I've got a top 8 to prepare for, so I'm going to go ahead and let you get to it.
All right.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks
Good
for
luck,
having me.
Phimus.
Thank you.
Yeah.